because it's the only way really in Germany to bring a topic into the court. So I or others, we had to just get these fines, because that's the only way to enter in the court system. And this is what I did. I just didn't follow the mandate. This is basically the argumentation to say to the judge, look, there is no scientific control in virology. I myself provide proof that I asked several institutions, several authors of studies around the world, and none of them carried out the controls, and they even admit that.
Many of us know that virology has not followed the scientific method, and the virologists have failed to perform valid control experiments. We've written articles and essays and made videos explaining why the virus hypothesis has been refuted on multiple levels. The evidence for pathogenic viruses is sorely lacking. The mainstream controllers are trying to keep this knowledge suppressed. But now they have a new problem. Marvin Haberland is a German engineer who has worked out a way to get the virus existence issue into court. His case should require the virologists to provide evidence that they followed the scientific method when they claimed that SARS-CoV-2 exists. And it looks like they are running out of places to hide. How did this all come about? Before we get into the court case and the real juicy stuff, I want to learn about, you studied engineering in Germany and you got a Fulbright scholarship, is that right, to Berkeley? Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. So I did my undergraduate studies in Hamburg, Germany, and then I was happy or lucky and been awarded a Fulbright scholarship, and that gave me the opportunity to go to the US to do graduate studies at UC Berkeley. And there also I kind of discovered all the great scientists like Kari Mullis or Peter Duisberg, who were already kind of criticizing the whole field of virology. Although I was studying engineering in Berkeley, I kind of got into this topic because my grandmother died at this time during my studies from her cancer therapy, and that made me question the topic. And then I got into all sorts of infectious disease topics, virology, health and nutrition, of course. And I was very surprised to see scientists, even with Nobel Prize, like Kari Mullis, who invented the PCR method, or Peter Duisberg, who still is, I think, the professor in chemistry at Berkeley. Great scientists who were kind of, being shut down or criticized a lot, although they were just claiming or asking for scientific evidence. And I was surprised to see that, and this made me even more willing to deep dive into these kind of topics.
Yeah, so it was the introduction really started after your grandmother passed away, and it was into chemotherapy first. So when you went into infectious diseases, sort of how deep did you go into it? Did you go all the way?
Yeah, I went all the way. I mean, I started really with understanding that the theory of germ disease was flawed because of basically every time there were control experiments, which some were conducted in the history. Every time they did it, it didn't work. The scientific control, when it was carried out, always falsified the hypothesis, the germ theory hypothesis. So I was, I immediately understood that the theory was flawed. And then also I went very deep into all the topics, Spanish flu, HIV, AIDS, and then SARS-CoV-1. Swine flu and bird flu and all that kind of stuff, and which was happening over the past 100 years, basically. And I also went through all the scientific literature right from the beginning, like the Rosenau experiments, last century, or which basically prove that transmission of disease in an experimental setting cannot be reproduced. So there is no way to demonstrate scientifically that there is contagion, and that really caught my interest. So I kept researching it because I was always, since I was a little boy, very curious to know about health and everything around it. Although I studied engineering, I was still very interested, and I think many times people ask me, "Oh, you are an engineer. How would that be? Or how are you qualified to read the clinical literature and stuff like that?" So I always reply with the same argument. I say, if you are, if you have a scientific degree of any field, you always learn the scientific method, or you should basically learn how to do it. And the scientific method is generally applicable to every field. It's always basically the same. It follows the same principles of logic. So I could read the scientific literature even from like foreign subjects and still check if the basic scientific steps are like fulfilled. So that is not a problem. And I always reply to that. And I think you can always read the clinical literature even as an engineer or as basically a doctor, of course, researcher in another field. That is not a problem if you just follow the scientific method.
Did you find it difficult, Marvin? Because I learned, even as a doctor, I found starting to read virology quite, it's a bit of a black box, as it were, because it is quite technical, and to get past it. Did you have anyone help you do this, or you went for it yourself?
Yeah, that's a good question. No, I got introduced into the topic, and also I think without this support, I wouldn't be able to understand it fully. So I started to discover the work of Stefan Lanka and other scientists. I mean, the Perth group with HIV/AIDS, and also Peter Duisberg, Karim Mullis, who came out with some arguments about this topic. Basically, since Corona started, the Corona Fakten, a German Telegram channel, also published and issued like several hundred of reports and step-by-step introduction how to understand the publications of the virologists and basically what they are doing. And I was just checking all the time. Is what Stefan Lanka is saying, can I check it? Can I verify it? Or what Corona Fakten is publishing, can I check it? Can I verify it? And every time I did it, I was able to verify, to validate it for myself. And I downloaded all the publications. I read through all of them, through the method parts. And I then started also to become more active and send freedom of information requests around the world, basically to German institutions, but also to Australia. I have for my own court case, I have a pretty big one from Australia. Maybe we can talk about it later, but and I always was confirmed basically that there is something wrong in virology. So all of these requests basically confirmed my thoughts on this topic.
Yeah, and so at this time this is before the COVID-19 pseudo pandemic. When are you starting to delve into this? Is this 2018? Is that right? Or
yeah, it's kind of 2018. So I really started to read every day, like a lot of hours. I got very interested in it in 2018. Yes, that's correct. And then I was already prepared when the COVID stuff started back in January 2020. Basically, I was already, I was immediately checking the literature, going to the publications and checking, okay, maybe this time they did it right. They isolated it correctly. I started immediately to check. So, but yeah, in 2018 it was, yeah.
And then can we move on to, then something happened to you with masks? Is that right? Yeah.
Exactly.
So tell me the story of what happened to you there.
So where I live here in northern Germany, in Hamburg, and many other cities in Germany as well, we had mask mandates, and I mean, we still have it in public transportation, but there was a time in 2020 and 21 where we had mask mandates even in the in the streets outside in certain areas. So I was living near like a central station of the city, and I couldn't leave my house without needing to wearing a mask, because this zone where they declared the mask mandate started immediately outside of my door. So of course I just left the house like always without the mask, because yeah, I just don't want to follow this basically unnecessary recommendation, which has no effect if you check the scientific literature, of course. But I just also wanted to use the opportunity to get into those kind of penalties, because it's the only way really in Germany to bring a topic into the court. So I or others, we had to just get these fines, because that's the only way to enter in the court system. And this is what I did. I just didn't follow the mandate, and I received the fine, and this allowed me to now open a court case. Without it, it wouldn't have been possible.
Yeah, and so just briefly as an overview for the audience, can you talk about what the court case, this is so incredible, what it's about and where it's leading to, and we can get into the details a bit more.
Yeah, sure. So basically, I just disagree with this fine, and my argumentation is pretty, I think, special, because I'm not sure around the world if there is a similar country where you have a law of infectious disease like in Germany, which states in its first paragraph that everything that follows, basically the whole law, is based on science, the scientific method. It states in paragraph 1 that all institutions, all governmental authorities, all research institutions, universities, doctors, virologists, everyone has to work according to the status quo of the scientific method. I listened to Stefan Lanka, who was saying, oh, if everyone gets a fine, just use this argumentation, just say that paragraph 1 of the law is not fulfilled in virology because the scientific method is not applied, because there are no controls, scientific controls. And I mean, this is clear to everyone that scientific controls are a fundamental step in science. And if the law states in the first paragraph that everyone has to, act or work according to this scientific method, then a scientific control has to be carried out. And this is basically the argumentation, to say to the judge, look, there is no scientific control in virology. I myself provide proof that I asked several institutions, several authors of studies around the world, and none of them carried out the controls. And they even admit that. It's not that they are saying, yeah, we did it or whatever. They really say no, which is the second or third step in virology. They really admit that they do not do any scientific control. For the first step, which is the cytopathic effect, they sometimes will say that they do it, but when they are asked to provide documentation or evidence on how they did it, they also cannot do it. So in Germany, we have the German Foundation of Science, which basically issued like a regulation or like basically an abstract on how to work according to the scientific method. And every German scientist who received tax funding has to work according to those rules. So this is another specialty in Germany, I think, which adds on to this case. because I can argue that the German Foundation of Science is basically also saying in their rules that every scientist has to question themselves, everything has to be controlled, and everything has to be documented and all that kind of stuff. So in Germany, this is pretty clear. And Stefan Lanka already went to the German court system in 2015 and 16 with measles, and there we had a similar argumentation, and the case was finally won by Stefan. And if you read the exact documentation, what was being said in the court, you can really see that there is no scientific control in virology. This is even agreed in the court by scientists who were invited to talk as witnesses, basically. So I just try to follow these simple steps and say to the judge, look, if there are no scientific controls, the method is not the scientific method is not there, and paragraph 1 is not fulfilled. Therefore, every other paragraph in the law, even the one with the measures, are invalid, because the measures are in paragraph 28 or 28A or B, I guess. So, but they fall apart because paragraph 1 is not fulfilled. So, let's see how this will go.
Have you faced censorship? I mean, how you're 30, is that right? Like, how is this working in your life? Are you working? What, like, do you have to pay money for this legal case? Like, how are you doing this?
No, so far I have not been censored. I just I'm just employed normally. I just work and do this basically because I always felt that I can contribute to this bigger development. And Stefan Lanka is one of my heroes, my idols, I would say. I really look up to him because of what he has done. And also, I really appreciate your work and the work of many other people. And I want to contribute somehow. And by doing this, I had the feeling that I can, support or help everyone to maybe get a better future finally, even my family and my friends and my future children and so on. So, and myself, I don't want to be in the situation where we have now this pandemics every year, new variants and new measures. And in Germany, they really they don't stop it. They prolong the measures now, and they are very, very strict here, because I think in Germany there are a lot of critics, and a lot of people in the society are kind of aware that there's something wrong. So Germany is especially very strict on the population, and I think we are one of the countries worldwide who had the strictest measures and still have measures going on. And I just want to support wherever I can to stop this. And I felt that this was the right time to do it. So I got engaged in this court case. And I also saw that nobody before me has really done it for COVID in Germany. I mean, I'm not aware of any case with following this argumentation with the scientific controls and so on. So I just tried to do my best.
I mean, it's phenomenal. It's David and Goliath. I mean, really, it's a huge thing that you're doing. Do you so just so I can understand as well, the court system in Germany, because there's different levels, I assume, and so the one that's happening in Hamburg mid-October, that's when it starts, is it? Around the 16th or something?
It's the 19th.
The 19th. My thoughts are going to be with you. What level is this? Can you explain sort of the court system for those of us that don't know about it?
Yeah, so this is the first level in Germany. I think, I mean, I'm not an expert, but I think overall there are like 3 levels. The first level, the second one, and the third one would be governmental court. The first one is Amtsgericht. There is no need to have a lawyer or something. You can defend yourself. It doesn't really cost any money to do it. At the end, in case you lose, you have to pay a very little amount. The amount you have to pay is defined by the fine that you got. So in my case, the fine I think is 130 euros. So it's not a lot. So that is kind of good in Germany, that you as a citizen can always run into these kind of cases or disagree with measures or other legislation if you want. There are basically two different scenarios. One would be that the judge agrees that the scientific method is not fulfilled. Therefore, paragraph 1 is violated, and therefore the measures are illegal, basically. The second one would be that the judge finds some sort of excuse or even just ends the case. This is also possible in the first level. He can just say, oh, we stop this, we just lay it down, nobody has to pay anything, it's just ended. So this is basically possible in Germany. However, if this happens, I could go to another court and just file it in again. Or in case that he finds any other argumentation, he might be able to say that in virology, scientific controls are not required. For example, he could say that, which would be, of course, something good for us to have this. But he could also find other excuses that, I don't know, you can imagine many things. But then you can always go to the second level. So I could disagree and go to the second level. And in the second court, in the higher court in Germany, this case would be, I think, investigated. There would be scientific, witnesses invited to the court to speak up, and all my evidence that I have filed in would need to be checked. Because in the first level, I'm not sure that they are required to check it or even to go over it. Let's see, but this is the way it would go.
Yeah, that makes sense. So let's talk about Leon Kelly and the Doati Institute, because this is an interesting Australian paper. Can you talk about that a bit?
Yeah, I think I was the first isolation of SARS-CoV-2 outside of China, the first publication. In the beginning of all of this, I saw that Thorsten Engelbrecht was messaging all these authors from different papers, and when I got this fine, I wanted to prepare myself for the court case, because I knew already that I was going to court eventually. So I sent this Freedom of Information request to the University of Melbourne, to the Doati Institute, which is basically their virology institution. And all the authors of this Australian SARS-CoV-2 isolation paper are based at this institute. And what I asked them is if they carried out controls for the cell culture, for the cytopathic effect, basically, and also for the genome sequencing, because they apply the genome sequencing method to calculate, basically, to mathematically model a genome. And I couldn't find any scientific control in the publication. I could find that they had like a mock infected cell culture, but then they didn't really explain what they were doing. So I asked
can I just ask about that, because I'm really interested in this. So what did they say about the mock? Because we've done FOIA's Freedom of Information Act requests as well to lots of institutes, and Christine Massey, of course, she's done this too, to find out what are mock controls. And most of the time, they're not what people think. Is that what did they say to you?
Okay, I will first explain what I think that many times what happens. So mock controls will just be a cell line which will be untreated. Like they just let it there and provide nutrition to it, but they don't really add any chemicals to it, and they don't add any human, sample or whatever. They just leave it there untreated. So what I asked is, I read in the methods part of the publication which kind of chemicals, antibiotics, and steps they were doing in the infected cell culture. So I listed all of them in my question and asked, have you done exactly this procedure with the negative control? They were kind of saying that they define a negative control or a scientific control to be an experiment where you really remove only one variable, the independent variable, but all the other variables have to be the same, which is basically the correct answer. But then I asked if they can provide me with the documentation of this experiment so I can really, understand what they did. And they were answering that these kind of scientific experiments, the scientific controls, are not documented at all in the publications. So they just don't document them. Well, that's it. This is their answer. And for the other question, if they used, negative controls for their genome sequencing, I asked two questions. One is if they performed an experiment where they tried to calculate other virus, HIV, for example, or measles, from the same culture, basically just with another reference genome of HIV. Have they tried it? And they said, no, we did not do this control. And then I asked if they, from their mock infected cell culture, tried with the same SARS-CoV-2 Wuhan reference to calculate SARS-CoV-2 genome from this, negative control. And they said, no, we didn't do it. And then I asked another question, a very interesting one. I said, why didn't you do scientific controls for this kind of sequencing methods? And I think this is the best answer of all, because they basically said at the beginning of the year, SARS-CoV-2 genome sequencing was not rarely available, and we didn't have a lot of capacity to run these kind of experiments. So we just didn't sequence the negative culture. So basically they were saying that they just had no time for it or whatever. So a very unscientific answer, which in Germany would be, in Germany this answer is perfect, because the German Foundation of Science, they really say that no matter what, no matter if you have a lot of time or not a lot of time, if there is a lot of pressure to publish a paper right away, you always have to make sure that everything is documented and all results have to be controlled wherever possible. This is what they say. So I can say in the court, look, they admit that they didn't do any controls for the genome sequencing at all. And as an explanation, they don't say that it is not required because we already did it in the past, or these methods have been validated there or there. Look at this publication. No, they just said very, very, honestly, we just didn't do it because we didn't have a lot of time or resources to do it. And this is, of course, a perfect example. I was very happy to get this FOIA, because normally they try to, really try to not answer it. But this time, this was answered very, very exact and very honestly and on point. So I'm quite happy with this piece of evidence. I hope the judge will recognize it, and also everything else which I filed in.
It sounded to me like the dog ate my homework kind of level of excuse.
Yeah.
Because all of the institutions around the world, it's the same problem. Like, not just the RKI, is it?
Yeah, it's always the same. I think one thing which is important is, even if they did scientific controls and even if they documented them for the cytopathic effect, it would not be an excuse to not carry out scientific controls for the other methods which follow, like for the genome sequencing. You would need to control them anyway. So, and there we are 100% sure nobody has done it, nobody has published it, and no virologist is claiming that they did controls for genome sequencing. Nobody has ever claimed that they've done it. For the first step, which is the cytopathic effect, there is some disagreement, but I mean, it doesn't really bother me, because in my case, I can just reference to the genome sequencing part, which is not controlled at all, which is, for me, is sufficient. Even if the cytopathic effect would be controlled, I don't care. In that case, I think what they use as a mock infected culture is just a cell line with no additives, and certainly there is no added human sample to it from a healthy person, because it's totally inoculated, which is not a valid control in my opinion. They should add some sort of sample from a healthy person, which they say is healthy, just to give some sort of RNA material in it. And also, what I found very interesting in this Australian publication, when they try to look into the electron micrograph of the cell culture and to check the morphology of the corona spikes, they couldn't find them. They say in the publication the viral morphology was actually not what we expected. We couldn't see these spikes. And then they say, oh, after adding trypsin, which is basically an enzyme, protein enzyme, after adding trypsin, the viral morphology immediately improved and we could see these spikes.
The COVID-19 Fraud and War on Humanity by Dr. Mark Bailey and Dr. John Bevan Smith. When they claimed the Vero cells showed cytoplasmic membrane-bound vesicles containing coronavirus particles, Kelly et al. Were unable to find virions with the purported spike protein, so they added more trypsin to the cell culture medium, and before they could say Jack Robinson, the trypsin, the function of which is to digest proteins, had gobbled up the outer protein layer of a 100 nanometer spherical virion to reveal the characteristic crown-like fringe of spike proteins, which they added without the slightest hint of irony, immediately improved virion morphology.
Also there is just ridiculous, because if you take the mock infected culture and add trypsin there, you will find the same result, of course. You will see that the enzyme starts to, kind of change the top layer of this protein or whatever it is. And this is also a question I could have asked them. Why didn't you add trypsin to the mock infected culture? In this case, I didn't do it, but it would be interesting to see what they answer.
What I'm interested in too, Marvin, is do you think from the judge's perspective, so do they, these are legal people. Do you have concerns about them understanding the level of science that you're talking about? Like, do they have to have some sort of training? Like, how you part of me worries, will they be able to even get it? Because a lot of scientists don't even get what we talk about.
Yeah. I don't think they can really understand it in a deep fashion, because they are not trained in this area, and they have not read and deep dive into it like we did. But still, what I told you in the beginning applies. These people went through a scientific education, so they will understand the scientific method. And for them, it should be enough to check my claim that there are no controls, and they don't need to understand what exactly is going on in MegaHit or Trinity, these kind of software programs that come up with the genome. They don't need to really understand what is happening in the cell culture, why we use antibiotics and all that kind of stuff, and what viruses do with the cell and whatever. It's not their job, but they can check were their scientific controls carried out. Is the basic principle of the scientific method fulfilled? Basically a logic procedure to come up with cause-effect relationship, and this they can check. I think the judge can do it, yes. Because my argumentation is very easy. I just say check for the scientific control. That's it. And I asked the judge to, if in case he finds that there is no scientific control, you can please contact any virologist of your choice of any university in the world, and ask that these scientific controls are carried out, and then we see the result. I even invite the judge to come with me in the lab and observe the scientific control. Or I think they will understand that this is a very simple step and they can check it in 5 minutes. Yeah.
It's fabulous. This is great. Yeah, I mean, have you seen what people like? So there's another group, the Settling the Virus debate statement, where so Tom Cowan, Andy Kaufman, myself, my husband, Kevin Corbett. There's about 20 different scientists and doctors who are saying we'd like virologists to do these experiments with the controls, but be blinded as well, so that they don't know what are your thoughts about that?
I think it's perfect because especially the point of getting like the second layer on top, the blinding is very good, because even if the virologists would say, okay, we do the scientific control, they could still be biased. For instance, in a situation where they want to prove that there is contagion, for instance, I just come up with another example. If there is contagion and they pass on, virus onto animals, they could still be biased and say, yeah, this animal had symptoms where this animal didn't have symptoms or whatever, because it's totally subjective sometimes. Like in the vaccine studies where they have to cross, there were symptoms here, and in the other group, of course, they can say, oh no, these were other symptoms, these were not COVID symptoms. So the blinding is a very, very good step. I think it adds to the scientific method, and everyone understands that this is perfectly fine, and this is the highest degree of evidence that you can achieve if you get double blinded studies. And also, I think that Corona Fakten here in Germany and Switzerland did a similar step. They really they asked institutions around Germany and Switzerland to carry out scientific control, and they would pay it. They said, look, we will pay for it. We will give you the funding, just do the control. And they didn't agree. The virologists that just found excuses to not do it or whatever. So I think everyone who really is unbiased and checks all of this will quickly understand that there is something wrong here. And even many people who up to this point were not really open to this, I can observe that in Germany, many people start to question this topic, because the vaccines are not working at all. Obviously, people who got vaccinated 2, 3, sometimes 4 times still get infections. Even politicians like the German health minister with 4 COVID vaccines still got positive and, symptomatic. So the people understand that there is nothing to these vaccinations. Many doctors that I personally know, also in my age group, will not take the 3rd or sometimes 4th vaccine. They will stop. So there is a change in perception in the society, even among people that were very, very much following everything. So this is also, I think, supporting my case, because even the judge, maybe 1 or 2 years ago, would have been difficult to come up or to go into that kind of case. And there was a lot of political pressure on the court system. I think now, like, it's 2.5 years later, I think even the judges are starting to, question it a little bit more, and there is less pressure on them, so they can judge more independently now, I think.
Yeah, that's interesting you say that. So was that for you part of the timing of why you wanted to start up with this, the mask infringement, and was that part of it, your reasoning, your rationale of doing this, to try, as the timing is better now for people to accept something like that?
No, I would say this is just lucky for me. Actually, the fine, or basically the situation was a long time ago, end of 2019, 1, I think, or even 20. I'm not sure right now, because I had to wait very long time to get this invitation from the court. It took a long time. So I expected to start this case way earlier. Now, luckily for me, it starts now. I think it's just better situation than if it started 1.5 years ago. It would be more difficult, I think.
And I just wanted your thoughts on like a bird's eye perspective of things. Why do you think, from all your investigations, what you've looked into, that virology, why don't they do controls? Why don't they use a scientific method? What's your feeling of the bigger picture of what's going on here?
Yeah, so I don't think that, the majority of these people are bad people or something like that. I just think that what they learn in university is basically giving them the impression that the methods they are using are valid. So maybe that's why they don't consider that controls would be even necessary, because they think, oh, why doing a control? Why bothering with it? We have a positive cell culture here, and the virus is there 100%, so we don't need a control. This is, for them, it's basically virology 101. So I think they just don't consider it. And if they are being asked to carry out controls, or if they are being asked why don't they do it, for them it might be, I think, kind of strange, because they might never have thought about it. Maybe some did. And the only control that they really try to do sometime is the mock-infected cell culture. But all the other methods are not controlled at all, never. So yeah, this is, I think, the primary reason. But now, as there is a lot of scientific attention rising on this topic, I think that many of them immediately also understand the issue, but then they are scared. Of course, these are people like you and me, and they might be scared of losing their job. They might be scared of losing funding. And eventually, let's be honest, if this is coming out, the whole, virology discipline will collapse, and every one of them will be jobless, basically. So this is basically another problem which we have. So first is they are not aware, they think their methods are valid, and second is this underlying issue of existence problems, of course, which will arise.
Yeah, because sort of where I was leading to with that as well, and I don't know what your thoughts are, but I think virology is being used as this Trojan horse to control people, to control populations, and it can be done this way because it's a black box, and it's easily manipulable to find a particular outcome and therefore control people, masses of people, as we've seen with COVID, because I don't see this ending. Like COVID-19 is just one of the latest ones that's happening. I mean, do you have any opinions on that? You don't have to if it's too much.
Yeah, I think that there will always be interest groups or people that will use whatever situation occurs to them to broaden their power and to extend their power. Like in every case, also in this situation, there are people that use this situation for their benefits. Of course, in the pharmaceutical industry, all the people that work for the vaccine companies like Pfizer, BioNTech, CureVac, and Moderna, and so on, they are not evil people or bad people, but they just think with a dollar in their head, right? So for them, it's like a golden rush, so to say. They have been waiting for many, many years to come up with a product now in BioNTech. So they are just biased with this, and without the valid controls, they will never understand that what they are doing is not helping anyone, and is not necessary, is not effective, is not working, is not valid at all. I think, if you ask my personal opinion, I think there are people behind that also use the situation to, kind of shape the society in the way they would like to, and according to their principles and ideology. But it's difficult to prove. That's why I prefer to always talk about the things that we can prove, the scientific steps, the papers, because there I can be 100% sure nobody can argue. With the other topics, it's kind of what do you think? What do you think? What is your opinion? So nobody can prove anything. It's just what we think. And but my personal opinion is I think, very similar to yours. I think from what I have seen in my research, I have to come to the conclusion that there are people who exactly know the limitations of virology, the problems of it. They exactly know the Rosenau experiments, that contagion is not replicatable in an experiment, which basically means it really doesn't exist in the way we think it works. And there are many people that really exactly know this. I think even people like Christian Drosten, the Anthony Fauci of Germany, the main virologist here, who came up with the PCR protocol, the first one early 2020, which was then accepted by the WHO and sent around the world very quickly. I think this is a guy who is in the business since many, many years. He even carried out the PCR methods in SARS-1 to early 2000. So he knows exactly what is going on. He knows exactly what he is doing with the primers and everything. I just have to come to this conclusion that there are some people who really, know what they are doing and who, get a great benefit out of it. Yeah.
What I really do love, I have a soft spot for engineers, Marvin, because I love just the absolute logical, there's no gray, it's just black and white, and this is what we have to show. And I appreciate that's what you need in order to do this and to go forward. For the audience, is there a way that they can support what you're up to? Because potentially will you need funding for the next round of legal cases?
So of course I would be happy to see many people that day in Hamburg, if that is possible for someone. Maybe they are close by. That would be great. I think from what I understood, the amount of people who will be coming is already a lot. So it will be a great day, and also for the judges, it will be a special situation because they don't have this every day, and they will see that there is a lot of public attention, which sometimes they can close a case with the argumentation that it is not very relevant for the public and that there is not a lot of public attention. But here there will be a lot of public attention. So I encourage everyone to come and to judge, to use this opportunity to observe this open case. Yeah, if it goes to the second or even third level, I don't know what will happen. But if then I'm sure we will ask for support, for funding, because then I will need a lawyer. So now in the first level, I technically can defend myself, but in the second and third level, a lawyer is required. Otherwise, it doesn't work. So I will need to spend some money on it. And of course, if that happens, we will be happy to. Corona Fakten is basically supporting me in that case. So then we will see. But for now, everything that I ask is that people will start to check what I say or what we argue is correct. Just follow our argumentation and come to this court case and share it with everyone, because I think it's a great opportunity, and as we discussed before, a good timing. I think it's time now, and we have a good chance. My intuition tells me that there is a good chance that we can maybe achieve this time a good decision. Also because this argumentation is kind of unprecedented. So nobody has ever done it in the German court according to this easy logical steps. And I'm not sure the judge can find any escape holes this time. I don't think it's possible.
Yeah, sorry, that's quite funny. Yeah, I like it, the escape holes. So Marvin, it's different from what Stefan, his level of arguments, because I suppose his was focused more heavily on vaccination and measles.
So what Stefan did in 2015 is another, way to enter the court system. He published a reward of 100,000 euros for everyone who could prove that measles existed in a scientific publication, which, with some other details to it. So this was basically a way for him to enter the system, because he was waiting for someone to claim the money. Then he wouldn't pay the money because no publication could be provided to prove it. And then he was hoping that this, person would bring him into court. And this is what eventually happened. In the COVID case, since we have COVID, we have these measures, these mandates. This is a way easier way to get into the court, because you can just not follow the mandate, you get a fine, and boom, you are in the court. So before COVID-19, this was not really possible, because there were not really any sort of fines or mandates regarding infectious diseases. So
the arguments used are different, though, for what Stefan said to what you're saying. Is that right?
Yeah, because as Stefan didn't go to the court by the infectious law of diseases, he went to court by like a civil case where he was not paying the 100,000 euros to the doctor. I go to court with the fine, which is based on the infectious law of disease. So I can reference, or I can refer to the first paragraph, which states that the scientific method or the science has to be performed. And Stefan used a slightly different approach. Of course, he then also went on to say that scientific method implies that you have a scientific control, which then makes a hypothesis falsifiable or not. And he was able to show that there are no scientific controls in the studies of measles, and so on and so forth. But he didn't go the route over the infectious disease law with paragraph 1. So in my case, it will be very easy for the judge, because I think they like it if they can just use the law, and they don't need to find other points of arguments. I make it very easy for them. I just take the first paragraph. I mean, everyone can look it up at Google. It's put IFSG, which is the abbreviation for this law, IFSG, paragraph 1, just translated to English, and you will see that they will ask for the scientific, basically, approach for everyone. So this is a slightly different approach, but in the end, of course, it's the same logic.
I'm loving it. I really am, Marvin. It's fantastic. Is there anywhere people can follow you? Are you on any sort of social media, or that people can sort of follow this?
Well, I am working closely together with Corona Fakten, so everything that we do will be published there. And also, I'm not very active in social media, so I don't have any. I have a YouTube account and a Twitter account, but I'm not very engaged there. So I just try to contribute to our movement by just bringing this in the court, and maybe in the future I will also be more active in the social media. But for me, so far, I enjoy to more be a consumer of your content or other content, and do my contribution in this way of the world.
Oh, Marvin, you're such a lovely. I really like your. I think it's exciting times, and you never know how maybe your grandmother manifested coming out
Yeah.
and being, and this is being used in that way. It's wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your time, and we'll be watching with great interest.
Yeah, thanks for talking or carrying out this interview, Sam, and yeah, hopefully we will report success.
Just after this video was filmed, we learned that the German courts have postponed Marvin's case until further notice, due to the judge taking, quote, sick leave. We will let you know when we receive any further updates. If you enjoyed this video, please visit support.sam.com